Hello, you're listening to another episode of the Top 8 Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Batiste, joined by my co-host,
TJ, as always, and today we are joined by the one and only I Am Trashmouth on Instagram and TikTok. You've probably seen his content. Why don't you introduce yourself?
What's up, guys? Yeah, like TJ said, I go by Trashmouth on all the social media nonsense, but my name is Dakota. If you have seen any of my content before, you've probably seen me speaking to another version of myself in my car, or pretending I listen to pop music from the 90s when I listen to a lot of heavy stuff or things of that nature. So stoked to be here.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We've got a pretty massive episode today. This was easily the hardest episode I've ever had to prepare for. Do we want to introduce what we're actually talking about? I guess we may as well.
Yeah, we're doing top 8 metalcore albums.
From 2010 to 2019. So 2010's metalcore, to make it a little more specific, because if you did any of metalcore, this would be even harder. But yeah, basically what I went about doing was I kind of just scrolled through my artist playlist and added any album I thought would be in contention. I ended up with like 25 to 30 records, and it took me forever to nail them down.
I don't think I had as many as you, to be completely honest, but that's just more so my stuff is more of like the emo side of things. And like the thing is like I love heavy music, but it needs to almost be like put in front of my face. And there's a lot of bands that I think have been really popular over TikTok and Instagram over the last little while, where some of them I've checked out, but there's been a few where I haven't really checked out. And I don't know what happened this week. It wasn't even preparing for this episode. I was just like in a mood where I wanted to listen to some Bring Me. So I threw on some Bring Me, and then I fell down like a rabbit hole of just like heavier stuff that I haven't fully checked out yet, and like playlists throwing me things. And it was just like, oh wait, yeah, we're doing metalcore albums. So this is actually like perfect timing. So a lot of these or I think there's like 1 or 2 albums in here that I literally just checked out for the first time this week, and I'm putting them on there because the entire time I was listening to these albums, I was like mad at myself that it took me this long to go and check out this album.
I'm intrigued to hear your list. Dakota, what was your strategy going into this?
So I scrolled through my Spotify, and I actually sorted it by albums itself, because like it just sorts all the albums of the artists that I follow. And I knew they'd all be in there because I was, a really heavy metalcore listener from 2010 on. And I just kind of like scrolled back and forth. I was like, oh, that should be one. Oh, that should be one. And I tossed them in my notes and then deleted the couple extras. I was like, okay, no, this one's better than this one. And then I had it. And then realized I was using my phone for this situation right here, right? I have the list on my notes app on my phone, but I decided to steal a notepad from my fiance's desk. It's little like Post-it notes, and my entire list. I'm not going to show you the list, but I'm going to show you the Post-it notes. My entire list is on a Hello Kitty Post-it note now. So,
what could be more metal than Hello Kitty?
Honestly, that's how I felt about it. So it's ready to roll right in front of me.
Can I ask you, before we get into our lists, primarily what type of music do you actually listen to? Like, I know a lot of your content's around heavy music. Primarily, what is your go-to? What do you find yourself listening to the most? Is it heavy music? Is it something else? Because I know, sometimes as a former radio host, like I would listen to a lot of music on the radio, but then when I would get into my car, I did not want to hear a single song that we played on the radio station afterwards, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so funny you mentioned that. I went to school for radio broadcasting. That's what I have my bachelor's degree in.
Oh, amazing.
Not using it at all, but no, I do listen to a lot of heavy stuff. I feel like I actually listen to a lot of hardcore, which doesn't really get that much spin time on anything, including TikTok. It's not a very big genre on there. I listen to a lot of hardcore. I go to a lot of hardcore shows, but my favorite bands tend to not be on the heavier side. I was just telling TJ, my favorite band of all time is Yellowcard. And Good Charlotte's up there for me. Pierce the Veil's up there for me. A Day to Remember is up there for me. While they get heavy at times, they haven't lately, right? But But yeah, I feel like a lot of what I listen to and a lot of what's put in front of me these days ends up being on the heavier side.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of the heavier stuff put in front of me too, so it's kind of cool. And going into this season, it's sort of that weird between the emo and pop punk season. I think spring is metalcore season. That's what we're gonna, winter's Midwest emo season, and then spring will be metalcore season, and then summer is pop punk season.
I'm always like spring into summer is pop punk for me, and then as soon as fall hits, I'm all metalcore all the time.
Dude, it's already summer here. Like I we're probably at like 90 degrees today. So, sunny, hot. So it's pop punk season. I'm super excited about the A Day to Remember tour this year
Yeah.
Yeah.
because it's a day to remember. It's 4 years strong. 4 years strong
Story
is
The
like
story so far.
the
Yeah.
story so far. 4 Years Strong is like one of my favorite bands ever too.
They're so good live too. They're so underrated live.
Dude, incredible. They put on such a good show. And Boston boys, like I am all about my Boston sports, my Boston bands. Like I am so stoked. And I'm bringing my kid to go see the show too. So pretty excited about
Amazing.
it. Yeah.
Is that like the
Yeah.
first show that you'd be bringing him or them with you, or is a couple other shows too?
No. So my kid is 11 now. His first
Okay.
concert was the final run of Warped Tour when he was 5 years old.
Oh wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Indoctrinated early.
Yeah, so he's been in the scene for a little bit. He's gotten to do some pretty cool stuff. He was up on stage for the Used
Oh hell yeah.
a few months ago because his mom and her now fiance like proposed at the Used concert and like he had the sign, so they pulled him up on stage with them.
Oh wow,
Uh,
very cool.
he got pulled side stage for a Our Last Night show a few years ago. So yeah, he's familiar.
The next generation of content creator. Here we go.
I hope so, man. I hope so.
Well, why don't we get into our list, Dakota? Do you want to kick things off with your number 8 spot?
Yeah. So is that how we all give our number eights and kind of see where everybody falls in
Yeah,
line?
we'll each go one at a time, 8 through 1, and then at the end of it, we'll actually have a little discussion about what we think a combined top 8 list should be for the best metalcore albums.
I love
of
it.
What we're
Okay.
talking about. So,
And then we come up with one big final list. The ultimate list.
The ultimate list. Okay, perfect. So I want to preface this by saying I tried to not let my personal feelings get in the way too much because there's probably a record or two that, are probably just top 8 for me. But I tried to look at the full spectrum of things. Okay.
I'll
But
say I did a mix of both. I was definitely unbiased and biased.
I usually do a mix of both, or we'll try to kind of go for the objective. This one, purely subjective. So it's just a mix of everything. So this is why we have the discussion at the end and we come up with that final list, right? Because some of us are throwing in objective opinions, some subjective opinions. So this is great. I'm excited to know what you have at 8.
Perfect. Number 8, super underrated considering how big they are now. Creatures, Motionless in White.
That's my number 8 too. Let's go, baby.
Consistency,
That
baby.
record fucking rules.
It's so good. It's so heavy.
Yes. Honestly, like, I didn't really think it was going to make my list because I hold Abigail and Immaculate Misconception in such high regard that I kind of forget about the rest of the record. And then I was listening to it through and I'm like, this is so consistent from start to finish. And I think that like, I kind of forget about it because they've mostly moved on from this record, like performing live and everything. But it is amazing live. Like the first 4 songs all in a row, Immaculate Misconception, We Only Come Out at Night, London and Terror, and then Abigail. That is a 4-track intro.
It's banger after banger. And they actually did a couple songs from that record on the Knocked Loose tour that they just did back last fall. And I was like, oh my God, they're actually doing it. Like, they're not just playing the TikTok songs. Hell yeah. I'm so excited.
It's great when a
Amazing.
band's not just playing the TikTok songs.
Yeah. So that's my number 8.
My TJ's number 8's the same, so mine is different. I have Wage War Blueprints here.
Oh, sick. That was on my consideration, but it did not make my list, but it is a good record.
Yeah, I'm not, like I said, I'm prefacing this with like, I like metalcore and I like when things are put in front of me, and every now and then I'll throw on like a metalcore or metal playlist, and I'm into all of that. Wage War is one of those bands that continually pops up, especially like when I'm in the gym and stuff. And this album is, I was kind of like looking at which ones were coming out in 2010, and this is one of those albums that I find myself going back to when I'm looking for that like that metal kick. So I have it in at number 8. There's other albums that I feel are better than it, but it's definitely one of those ones that I go back to. So I'm like, this has to be in here in the top 8.
They're good and they're consistent. And it also helps that oh, there's a kitty in the background. uh
Oops.
nah, I love it.
Hi, Frodo.
That's Frodo.
And it also helps that Jeremy McKinnon has a lot of hands in what they do. That's why I like them, I think, because you can hear the Jeremy McKinnon and Data Remember influence in what they do.
Oh yeah, it's definitely back and forth at this point. Like now you can hear the Wage War influence in like a Data Remember stuff, and then like vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good pick. One more thing about Motionless in White. I feel like I really fell off hard after Creatures. Like it was kind of like an inverse parabola where like I loved Creatures, kind of dropped off, and then it really came back with Disguise. So I was between Creatures and Disguise, but Creatures is that record for me for Motionless.
Yeah. Dude, I like I just couldn't believe it when they came out of nowhere, just blew right back up. Because
Yeah.
I met them at Warp Tour in like 2012, I think, something like that. Here in Arizona, their faces were melting. They were miserable. But they
I
were
can
like,
imagine.
they weren't that popular at the time, right?
Right.
But they just had this huge positive upswing, and it couldn't have happened to better dudes, honestly. Chris is so cool. Like,
Yeah, he seems very, very genuine, very nice. I think them adopting the active rock, like kind of moving towards that like Breaking Benjamin style of rock music really helped in terms of exposure, but they still bring that metalcore energy even on like their last record. So they still have
yeah,
that like fire in them, and it's great to see. Saw them this past weekend and they were phenomenal live. Like Chris dropping the bleh on everybody. Oh my God, it hits so hard.
yeah, and he sounds just as good live as he does on the record.
Yeah, I was like
So
studio
good.
quality. I was so surprised.
Yeah,
I also
absolutely.
just think that like metalcore, emo, pop punk, and all of that kind of the whole all honestly, like the whole like scene got that revival. I don't know if it was like the pandemic or what it was, but like it's cool to see so many bands that have been working so hard for so long like finally get that recognition and getting that push that they needed, because I don't know, like I said, if it was the pandemic or what it was, but there was just that extra push, and seeing these bands just like break that next level has been really cool.
Yeah, totally agree. Dakota, what you got at number 7?
Okay, 7 is one that I think isn't going to be on anybody's other lists, just because I was actually torn on putting this one on the list myself because this tends to lean a little bit more to the hardcore side. But Low Teens by Every Time I Die
Oh,
is
nice.
is just front to back an incredible record. And I didn't know if they would ever be able to write a better record. And then they came out with Radical a couple of years ago, and that just blew it out of the water. But Low Teens for a long time was like one of my tops. So yeah, Low Teens Every Time I Die.
It's a really good pick. I was doing a little research beforehand. Like, what do other people think are the best metalcore albums of all time? That one came up a lot. I've just never been the biggest Every Time I Die guy. I don't know what it is. It never like fully clicked. I will say like I really enjoyed Low Teens, but they were never that band for me, but I definitely respect the pick.
Yeah, I totally get it. It's not like they're not on a lot of people's radar, but Keith Buckley is probably my favorite frontman in the hardcore scene. So
I know. I wish
Amazing.
that we. Well, I have one album on here that leans more into hardcore than it does metalcore. There were so many albums because I'm much more into like the punk influence and the hardcore stuff than I am the metalcore stuff. You'll kind of hear too with my list, like things. If it leans closer to the punk side than it does the metal side, I'm a lot more interested into it. There was a lot of albums that I left out because I felt like, oh, okay, this leans way too much more into the hardcore. We need to do a top 8 hardcore albums. That's what we need to do.
Dude, I am so down with that. That'd be awesome.
He's coming back.
Yeah, we got to do a second episode of top 8 hardcore albums because then you're going to really hear me geek out too, and geeking out over that will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm so down. Let's do it.
What do you have at number 7, TJ?
Do you want to do yours first, or you want me to go?
Sure, I got Holding Absent, self-titled.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and that's just because they're one of those bands I've found kind of relatively recently as well. But once again, like once I heard them, I was like, oh, who is this? And I feel like if a band can do that for me, then like I'll sink deeper into their discography and just kind of I'm more likely to throw them on if I kind of hit that first impression. Like I think back to the reaction that I want from a band, like the perfect reaction that I want to a band the first time I hear them is like the first time I heard Spanish Love Songs Loser 2. Like I got goosebumps and I was like, who the fuck is this? Like they showed up on a playlist and I'm like, what is this song? Who is this? I got to go to their profile and check out all of the rest of their stuff. So when a band can make me leave the general playlist I have and go and check them out to find more, then that makes me really like a band a lot more. And Holding Absence and the self-titled album really did that for me. So that's why I'm putting them on their list. Like I said, this list is all purely going to be subjective. So it's like people are probably going to be like, wait, you have this on a top 8 list of metalcore, but like, yeah, this is my personal top 8 list, knowing that I'm not a deep catalog guy. So keep that in mind.
Okay.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, that record is great. I really didn't consider it because I usually think of Holding Absence as more like the post-hardcore realm. So I didn't think of them as like metalcore record, but it's a great pick.
Well, that could also be why I'm leaning more towards them too. Once again, the post-hardcore and the hardcore stuff is more of what I'm into than more so than the metalcore stuff. But I do like the metalcore stuff. But that's why I said, like I said, my list is very much going to be take it with a grain of salt. And you guys are more of the authority on this than I am. So I'm just here to pepper in my opinions.
Fair enough.
Love it. At number 7, I have The Mortal Coil by Polaris, which I think is an incredible record. One thing I specifically wrote down, I just put bouncy fucking riffs because they are bouncy fucking riffs in that record.
I love Polaris, man.
They're so good. They're so good live too. Like I couldn't really get into their first 2 EPs, but this record was just jam packed full of energy, and like Jamie's screams really gave me that, like he's screaming because there's a passion and an energy behind it, not just screaming to scream. Like I found that with like Chester Bennington was really good at that too. Like his screams just felt cathartic. I feel that in Jamie's screams as well. And then my love for this record was really solidified when I saw them open for Parkway Drive back in like 2018. It was them, August Burns Red, Prada, and they opened the show and they stole that show. Like the first song, we've got a wall of death going already. I'm like, this is my new favorite band.
That's awesome. Plus, like, I don't know what it is, man, but Australia just breeds metalcore, dude. Like
seriously,
they put
them,
out some of
Amity,
these bad-
Northlane, just they've got major exports.
crazy Parkway. Like,
Parkway, of course, yeah.
It's crazy
So
because when you
crazy.
talk to like people in Australia, they're like, oh yeah, the scene's not that big, but yet like so many big bands are coming out of there. So it's like they're pumping out so much talent, even though they're claiming that their scene is actually pretty small.
yeah, it's so crazy to me because like I feel like every time I hear a really cool new metalcore song, oh yeah, they're from Adelaide. Oh, they're from Perth. I'm like, of course they are.
Every
of course
time.
they.
First
Why
time
not?
I heard Alpha Wolf, I was like, these guys have to be from Australia.
Dude, just saw Alpha Wolf live a couple weeks ago.
They're so good.
So good.
Insane energy.
Yeah, man, I love those guys. That's such a their new record's so good. You just,
Yeah.
nothing
What you got
bad
at
to
number
say.
6?
Okay, number 6 is another one that's also going to be subjective. Won't be on anybody else's list. I can almost guarantee it. This is probably I didn't bring them up earlier because I didn't want to like give away anything, but Vanna is my second favorite band of all time.
Okay.
They are again more leaning towards the hardcore side of things. But Void by Vanna came out in 2014. is my number 6.
Awesome. Yeah, I've heard the name Vanna many time, and I still have not listened to any of their music. And every time they come up, I'm like, damn, I got to check out this band. And I forget every time.
Dude, I have like one of my friends, he was like, "Hey, like I know you love Vanna. Like what are the songs that I should listen to like introduce me?" And I gave him a full playlist of like a couple of the best songs from each one of their albums and EPs, and I was like, "Here, this is what you need." I built it like
Amazing.
in like 5 minutes. I was like, "There you go." I
What
love
would you
Send it to
compare
us
their sound to?
afterwards.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I can do that.
What would you
Yeah.
compare their sound most to?
Oh man, it's so hard because like I don't really know anybody that really sounds too much like them, and maybe that's what I'm drawn to by
Yeah,
them.
that's why you like it. Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
yeah. Damn. I've never really had to compare them to anybody.
All right, you can think about it. So
Yeah,
put you on
yeah,
the
I'd
spot.
have
Sorry.
to. I'd have to. But they're that East Coast melodic hardcore that I love. So yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
What do
Matt,
you have
what
at
you got
number
at number
6?
6? Oh,
I
all
mean,
right.
you want me to go first?
I'll go. At number 6, I have "You Are We" by While She Sleeps, which I think is their magnum opus. I could never really get into them with any of their records beforehand. And honestly, I've kind of fallen off after this record, but I think this record is pretty much perfect from front to back. I remember staying up until like 3 in the morning to listen to the premiere of Silence Speaks, which features Ollie from Bring Me the Horizon, because they were premiering it on BBC Radio in the UK. And when it dropped, I was like, oh my God, this record is going to be phenomenal. And still to this day, that song is like one of my favorite features of all time. So definitely had to put it on the list.
I have on number 6, "Happiness and Self-Destruction" by The Plot in You.
That's a great record. Had it
Yeah,
on
that's a
my
good one.
short list, but did not make my list.
Yeah, The Plot in You is getting a lot of attention lately, and like well deserved as well. Like they're just one of those bands that just they hit the nail on the head every single time. Like so they're one of those like they're that metalcore band that I'm throwing on as well when I get into the car and I'm in a mood for it. Like I'll throw on their records, and I wanted to like put in some of their newer stuff as well because the newer stuff that they've been releasing has been like really on point as well. But we're just doing 2010, so I'm gonna throw in that one.
I almost put on Disposed too, but I wouldn't really call that a metalcore record either, even though I think that that's like a flawless album as well. But they've got some bangers on this record specifically. "Time Changes Everything" is probably one of my favorite songs of all time.
They definitely pump out some good stuff. I didn't even like have them on my radar for this. I should have thought of that.
Yeah, super.
What do you
solid.
have at number 5?
All right, number 5. Now we're finally getting into what I legit think are the top 5, like not subjective.
I would hope so.
Yeah. So
now we're getting into the real picks.
my personal feelings aside, I think "Dear Youth" by The Ghost Inside, number 5.
That was my number 9.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
Dude,
that's a great record.
yeah, I think it's structured well. I think it's written so well. I think there's a lot of feeling behind it. And that was the last thing that they put out before the accident. And it was something that we had to hold on to for so long. And we didn't know if we were ever going to get anything else. You know what I mean? And I think that made a lot of people like feel a certain way about it. And yeah, I think that's a great record and it definitely deserves its spot.
Definitely. I think "Mercy" is also one of my favorite pre-breakdown callouts of all time. Like, "Life's swinging hard, but I'm swinging harder." Boom. That shit hits. Seeing that live, I'm just like, let me punch somebody. Get over here.
Exactly. Man,
Start crowd killing.
Yeah, 100%.
They have some really, really great breakdowns in that whole
yeah.
record. Yeah, I love that record so much.
TJ, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is "Let the Ocean Take Me" by Amity, which they're doing the 10-year tour of this year. I've got my tickets. I'm so pumped. I really liked "Chasing Ghosts," but I was introduced to the band with this record, and I feel like they really perfected the stadium chorus with this record. Like every song has a chorus that you're going to sing along to, but they don't get rid of those like breakdowns, especially like Death's Hand hits every time. Never Alone has like a surprising little crabcore breakdown that I also really love, but I don't know, this album, I feel like they also thematically and lyrically haven't really progressed much from this record since, even though they've been putting out good music. This is like the pinnacle of Amity Affliction for me.
I agree. It's on my but
Thank
later.
you for your addition.
I agree.
I agree. It's on my list, but it's not my it's higher.
Okay, we'll talk about it then.
We'll talk about that later. My number 5. So my number 5 is actually really funny because they're a band that I think I probably prefaced this at the beginning of the episode. Everybody is hyped up for so long, and I've seen them talked about on TikTok and Twitter and Instagram and everywhere. Everyone's been talking. They're probably one of the biggest metal bands right now, but I don't know what it is. It took me so long to fully kind of check them out. And there was, maybe it's because some of their songs I've listened to and I didn't fully connect with. So I'm just like, I don't understand the hype.
This is quite the buildup.
It is quite the buildup.
I'm nervous.
But, and TJ, you'll know who I'm talking about when I say this. TJ and I had a conversation about this band a few weeks ago, and he's like, "Oh, dude, I totally understand where you're coming from. Check out their first album, though." And
okay.
And so I went to go and check out their first album this week, actually, and I texted him, and I'm like, "Dude, you were fucking right. I get it now." Bad Omens.
Oh, yeah.
Self-titled.
Yeah.
Their self-titled album. I threw that on this week just out of nowhere. I was looking for, I was in a heavy mood, and I'm like, okay, let's, like TJ said a couple weeks ago, listen to their first album. So I throw it on, it starts up, and I'm just immediately like, and like I'm doing the stank face, and I'm just like, and like different parts, I'm just like, oh, what? Like my reaction, I'm like, I kind of wish that I recorded it as a reaction, like one of those like first time YouTube reaction things, because every single song, multiple points of each song, I was just like, holy shit, I get it now. But then I went to go and listen to some of their newer stuff, and like it just doesn't connect the same. So like maybe I just need more time with this album to kind of sit and marinate with Bad Omens a little bit more before I do that, before I get into some of their newer stuff. Maybe it's just the fact that like their first album kind of leans a little bit more towards the hardcore side, and it has more of that drums, where their newer stuff kind of feels a little bit more generic or whatever. But that first album, I was just like, holy shit, this is going to be a top album for me now, and I'm going to continue, even though I basically just listened to it for the first time this week. I know that that's going to be one of those albums that I continually go back to. Like it's been on repeat all week. So it's been like, I get the hype around that. And sometimes you just need to let one album you like by a band simmer a little bit until you kind of get into other bands. Like I was kind of like that with Title Fight. I didn't really like a lot of their shoegazy stuff in the beginning. Listened to some of their older stuff that had more of the, punk vibe into it. And then the shoegazy stuff I really started to love after getting kind of acclimated to their older stuff, right? So you never know what's going to happen with Bad Omens, but that first album is like, holy shit, this is great.
Yeah, I got a lot of flack for that first record. Dakota, if you wanted to say something, you go ahead, though.
Why did they get flack for that?
Yeah, I don't...
Because it's very similar to another album that I have on my list, and they were called out like pretty heavy from it, where I think they really tried to distance their sound and their aesthetic from this comparison, which is where the second record kind of did a shift that I really fell off hard on the second record, and then fell back in love with them with the third record, The Death of Peace of Mind. But the first record is the record that made me want to like start collecting vinyl. That was the very first record I ever bought, because I was like, this band is gonna be fucking massive. I need to get this right now. And like, it's so good.
I need to know.
They've kind of distanced themselves from it at this point.
I'm so out of the loop on this one. I really need to know what album that is. So you need to bring.
You'll know when I
bring
it up. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize how heavy they used to be.
Yeah, for sure.
And And like you were saying, Matt, like you got to sit with that record first for a little while before getting into their newer stuff. And I think it's just like, the growth and development with the band that a lot of people like didn't have the experience for with Bad Omens. I feel like a lot of us have that experience with Bring Me the Horizon, right? They're the easiest comparison to make because their sound from their first EP is like light years away from what they sound like now, right?
Mhm.
But when you listen to each record, you hear that development of their different sound. And, we had to sit with those sounds for a little while before accepting that this is what they're going to be now. So yeah, I totally get that.
How do you feel about Bad Omens?
I like Bad Omens. They're not on my list. But I do agree that album that you picked, their first album, does hold its space in the heavier side of metalcore for sure. Rightfully so. Good pick. And I am really, really about this new, like, it's almost like sexy metalcore, I guess.
Yeah, hornycore. It's hornycore.
Yeah. Oh, it's hornycore. Okay, that's what we're calling it.
I was listening to their latest album today, and I sent TJ a print screen. I don't remember what the song was called, but I was like, I swear to God, this could be a song by The Weeknd. Like from the first record to this record, I was like, they went from this heavy band where I was like, what, to like, this is a Weeknd song.
Yeah, that makes sense. But like, there's so many bands that are doing it and doing it well right now. I think. I mean, we all know that Sleep Token's one of them, right?
I was gonna say them and Sleep Token are kind of leading the charge on this kind of like aesthetic metalcore.
Right. And I think another one that's doing it is Spirit Box. Spirit Box has that sound for me too. Yeah.
Yep.
So I definitely I enjoy this new hornycore genre, I guess.
I'm sure hornycore will grow on me.
That's just what I've seen on TikTok. I don't know.
I like it. All right. We jumping into the next?
Number 4. Yeah, I think
number 4
next, maybe.
All right. So my number 4 is The Flood by Of Mice and Men.
Nice. Good pick.
Yeah. I think that album is really good front to back. I don't really listen to them anymore. Truthfully. I appreciate what they're doing. I've always liked Aaron Pauley. I have nothing against them. It's just they had a very unique sound previously, and I really, really enjoyed it. And The Flood was like just one of those records where I could play it at any time and listen to any song on it and always be happy with it. So yeah, that's my number 4.
Totally makes sense. I'm surprised you didn't pick like the self-titled would also be in 2010, I think too. So comparing those two records, I guess you put The Flood above that one, I guess.
Yeah. I just think, I think their self-titled record has a couple like really good songs on it, but structurally as an album, it didn't really hold up for me.
Makes sense.
Also, the production value. I think the production value steps up huge in the next record. So I think that's a huge one for me as well. So.
Very fair. Matt, what you got at number 4?
Number 4, I put Sempiternal by Bring Me.
You put that at number 4? That's fine, bro.
Okay, so that's at number 4 because I mean, like, Bring Me is one of those bands that I've been listening to since they've basically come out. Like them and like The Devil Wears Prada. I swear every band from my high school opened up for them back in the 2000s, like in the late 2000s. So it's like that like style of like the shredding and the metalcore and whatnot. I really liked back then, but then I went through a while where I kind of phased it out and I wasn't listening to it as much, and I was going back more to like the emo and the pop punk stuff. And then Sempiternal kind of brought me back into Bring Me. And I had Sempiternal at number, I don't want to say where I had it, but I have another Bring Me album on this list, and I switched it the last second.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I switched it. It's a toss up between these two albums with Bring Me for me. And yes, and I think it's just because the other album grew on me more over time than Sempiternal.
So what record you're gonna put in place of that? To be honest, like I had two in contention. And I just joined them into one. I'm like, I'm just going to say them both at the same time because I want to talk about other bands. But I'm hoping it's the other one I was thinking of.
I don't think it is. It is.
Interesting.
Really?
Okay.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious what Dakota thinks it is.
Yeah, obviously, like I'm the odd one out here. You guys know each other fairly well, but I mean, to not have Bring Me the Horizon on this list in some way, shape, or form would be criminal on our part,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's like
So
I have it at 4, but I have another Bring Me album here within my top 3, obviously.
interesting.
But yeah, so I have 2 Bring Me albums on here, and it's just because, like I said, one of them grew on me a little bit more over time than Sempiternal did, and Sempiternal is like, and I switched it out at the last minute, and that was, I think, because I was like, oh, Sempiternal's probably the objectively better album that more people will connect with. But then I was like, nah, fuck it, I'm leading into the subjective on this, and I'm gonna
Okay.
put it down there. So, you know,
I'm
That is
hoping
what
it's
it
the
is.
other one that I'm thinking of. If it's
if it's the other one,
yeah. We'll talk about it then. We'll talk about it then.
Okay.
Cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My number 4. Okay, so my top 4 records were the very first records I thought of when we were like, okay, we're doing 2010's metalcore. My mind went to 4 records, and it's my top 4 records because I thought that was very telling. 2 of them are objectively the best metalcore albums of the 2010s. I don't care what anybody says, and 2 of them are my personal favorites. So,
So which 2 are the personal? Which one, did you put your personal at 1 and 2, or objective at 1 and 2?
Personal are 4 and 2, and objective are 1 and 3.
Okay.
Okay, so they're mixed.
Yeah. So my number 4 is A Different Shade of Blue by Knocked Loose, which is not probably a traditional metalcore album, but I think it fuses hardcore, metalcore, and deathcore enough where I'm putting it in the metalcore realm. Like, I was listening to Brian Garris's podcast on the Downbeat, and he was like, yeah, we mostly get classified as metalcore. I'm like, fuck it, I'm including it. This was my favorite record of 2019. Matt and I talked about this before. Like, I really wasn't into Knock Loose, and then this record came out, and it was like a flip just switched for me. And I was like, I am a Knock Loose fan. This record is heavy, it's punishing. In terms of like listening from front to back, it's perfect in terms of like distribution of singles. Like, you have Trapped in the Grasp of a Memory at like the second spot. You get a feature right after. So like listening experience, you're getting some different texture. In the Walls is one of the most like breakdown heavy songs I've ever heard in my life. And that one I think was like very inspirational for them doing that EP that came after this too. And then you have Mistakes Like Fractures, Forget Your Name, and I Still Wander South. And then they double down on the aggression with the very last song, Misguided Sun, ends with the lyrics. I had to look this up because these lyrics stick with me every time. I followed in your footsteps, a truth I can't accept. Your punishment is existence, a greater pain than death. I would rather die than be like you. That's some heavy shit. And it just like starts again, and I'm like, let's punch some people. That's my rant on that.
Maybe with Dakota, maybe with Dakota here leaning a little bit more to hardcore, you can agree with me that Knock Loose will never be greater than Pop Culture, but everything that they put out is still amazing. But Pop Culture is like the epitome of Knock Loose. Like, Pop Culture is just like fucking.
Dude, Pop Culture
it's so
is
good,
so heavy. The gospel is the sickest thing, like, ever.
I was listening to it today. It's like, I don't want to be a member of your fucking church. No, and I'm just like, I'm gonna go fucking mental.
It makes me want to fight for sure.
Yeah, it really does. I want to punch holes in my wall, and that's not often. That's not a normal reaction. But I'm like, I want to like scissor kick the fucking drywall.
Yeah, but I will say, Knocked Loose has had like a lot of good collabs and features over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite feature collab situation that they have done is on A Different Shade of Blue.
Forget Your Name with
Forget Your Name, Heath
Yeah.
Buckley, From Every Time I
man.
Die.
Yeah,
So good.
When I saw that they had Heath Buckley on a single, I was like, that's going to be my favorite Knocked Loose song ever.
Nice.
And his writing is so sick. Like, Keith Buckley's writing is so sick. And I don't remember where I heard it or read it, but they just like were like, hey, you have this space in this song, like, do what you want with it. And
He made it his own for sure.
oh, it's so good. yeah, I definitely understand why you would want to put that on your list. Don't
Yeah.
necessarily
I
agree that it belongs on a metalcore list, but
that was my thing.
but
Like, I saw your face and you're like, this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But this, I feel like this record really did like bring together so many different genres that I
yeah,
was like, they mostly get lumped into metalcore at this point. I think like they're obviously like a more of a hardcore band, but they really bring that metalcore influence. And I don't know, I'm including it because this record just rules.
yeah, it's awesome. Dude, I'm so excited for their new one to come out.
Yes. Oh
I
my, like all the singles have been insane. They go, I saw them at Sick New World and they stole the show. Like favorite set of the day easily. I got to see them again.
Yeah, I saw them at when we were young. No, not when we were young. At Blue Ridge. Saw them at Blue
Bridge.
Ridge,
Okay.
and then I came back home and I saw them again on tour with Motionless in White here.
Nice.
A few years ago, I saw them at a small venue here. I did a front flip off the stage and got a concussion. That was awesome. Um,
Amazing.
yeah. But dude, I've seen
True
them so
not
many
lose
times.
fashion.
Yeah, exactly. They're so great. And I found out today that a week from today, the release date of their record, they're doing a signing at a record shop here in Phoenix.
Oh, you gotta
Oh,
go.
no way.
I'm working.
No.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
I'll write the note for you. Don't worry. I got like a little fake doctor's. I'll
Perfect.
just put some scribbles on it. Don't worry. You're sick that day. I got
Okay,
you
perfect.
covered.
Thank you.
I got your back.
Why is
All
she
right,
going
we're
to a
getting into
Canadian
our-
doctor?
Yeah. We're getting into our top three now, I think, right?
Yeah.
Top three.
All right, here we go.
I feel like there's going to be, this is where we're going to start doing a lot of overlapping.
Yeah.
Yeah,
feel
I
it.
think so too.
Okay. Number 3 for me, Dead Throat, The Devil Worship.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, tell me what you think about this record.
So, I think obviously, with Roots is their best record, right?
That's the magnum
And-
opus for sure.
And not only that, I think that you can make an argument for that one being the best metalcore record of all time. Okay. Which is why Devil Wears Prada belongs on this list. But
I know.
a lot of people fell off after that. Dead Throne is so heavy.
I know.
It's so heavy. Title track itself, so heavy.
Mammoth is
Oh
disgusting.
my God. Like I didn't know they had that in them. You know what I
I
mean?
know.
And
I wish I liked this record more.
dude, and maybe it's because I tend to lean more towards the heavy side, you know? Like
Yeah.
I loved Beautiful Discord. I loved Plagues. I loved With Roots, but I was like, oh my God, they really have it in them to like be a beatdown band. You know what I mean? And I love that for them. So that's why it goes on my list.
My problem with this record is like it came after my two favorite Devil Wears Prada projects in With Roots Above and Branches Below, obviously, and then the Zombie EP. And then they followed up with Dead Throne, and I was like, fuck, I don't know. I'm just not like feeling, I don't know if it was like a different production style or what, but like something didn't connect. And then, yeah, I don't know what it was, but I almost put the Zombie EP on here for real because that shit is so good.
Me too, but I didn't think it would qualify because it's an EP.
I know.
Right?
I know we've kind of
I had-
done that before. We always think that we're like, should we include EPs? No.
I had the Zombie EP and then Currents, I Let the Devil In EP. And I was like, these are two like perfect 5-track EPs that I want to put on here, but I'll give them an honorable mention.
Right, dude. Zombie EP is like, it's one of the greatest things ever written. It's so good.
Totally agree. I love a good concept album, concept EP.
I'm like, starting the guitar riff with a chainsaw. Come on.
I know. Zed 2 was fucking sick too.
I have that on vinyl. I never, the first one came out before I started collecting vinyl, so I don't think I want to pay the arm and leg that's going to cost me.
Oh, it's crazy expensive. I managed to get the 10-year tour version of With Roots Above and Branches Below, and that's the only Prada record I've been able to get because they're just like so few and far between.
Yeah, man. With Roots, I would probably give up a finger or a toe for sure.
Matt, what you got at number 3?
Number 3, I have Amity Affliction, Let the Ocean Take Me.
Nice. Good
That's
pick.
where I put that one there. Yeah, I put that one there because that's one of those. Amity Affliction, sort of one of those bands that I've probably been listening to the longest, along with Bring Me. So I was like, that was like probably the second or third album that I was thinking about when making this list. I just kind of like typed out the ones that I knew for sure, like I listen to often or I go back to. And then I was like looking for other things that I've recently discovered that I've really been also enjoying. So yeah, Amity Affliction needs to be there. I was like debating on putting them a little bit higher, but they fell down to number 3.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, my number 3 then. I think I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this because it's, I don't know. They have so many iconic records.
You said this is an objective top 2.
It is.
But you're gonna get flack for it.
It is because they have so many other classic metalcore records. It's Holy Hell by Architects, and I'm putting it above All Our Gods Abandon Us and Lost Together, Lost Forever, Lost Together. Just because of how emotionally charged this record is. Like, coming off of the loss of Tom, like, the band had a lot to say and a lot of emotions to convey. This record is emotionally devastating, and I love it for that. I don't know what else there is really to say. Like, Doomsday itself, that song has been replicated 100 times at this point. Like, that riff has been like recreated by modern metalcore 100 times over at this point. I think that just Architects reached their peak for me with this record. And a lot of people would disagree with that, but I don't care.
Is this the Bad Omens one?
No. Bad Omens is going to be compared to my number 1. Don't you worry.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Like, both those bands, Amity and Architects, they never hit for me.
No.
Really?
Neither
Architects didn't until this record, which is where I feel really bad because other people hold the 2 records before this in such high regards in terms of like pure metalcore. But it was Holy Hell that just, like, I don't know, there was a fire that I just didn't have with them before, and this one just really converted me, kind of like the Different Shade of Blue with Knock Loose.
Yeah, I mean, I had heard like I heard Architects really early on, like probably
like Hollow Crown days.
Yeah, and then Amity, like I saw them live at Warped Tour like a couple times, I think, and like I had heard a lot of their stuff, but it never really like itched that spot in my brain, and a lot of the stuff for both of them just sounded very repetitive to me.
Yeah, I kind of got that too with like early Architects. It felt just like the same kind of metalcore song over and over again. Yeah. This one just really hooked me with like lyrically and thematically, where it just like I was like, oh, this is really good metalcore, and I can feel the passion and like all this other stuff that I can relate to.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know.
What do you have at number 2?
Okay, number 2. Here we go. Getting into it. Sandpit Turtle. Bring Me the Horizon.
Hey, there it is.
Yeah. You got it at number 2.
I do have it at number 2.
Okay.
I'm really interested.
I'm so curious what you have at number 1.
Yeah. But I mean, of course, Bring Me the Horizon has to be on here. It was a toss-up between 2 Bring Me the Horizon records for me as well.
What was the other one? Unless it's your number 1, then don't tell us.
It's not my number 1. I did not repeat any bands. I went back and forth because a lot of like both these albums have a lot of good singles, and both of them are structurally really well written. I think I have more favorite songs on There Is a Hell. But
that's what I was hoping the other record was.
Yeah. But I think the one that has stood the test of time and objectively is more popular, and has taken them as far as they are, is Sempiternal. So
I would agree. Yeah, I don't know. We may as well just talk about it. To be honest, it's my number 1. It's the best metalcore record of all time. Dude, I'm just going to talk about it now because like I'm already itching to talk about it.
You're dying.
We're at number 2s.
I know. I don't care. I put this at number 1 pretty much right away. And then I asked my fiance, I was like, she's not a big like metalcore fan. She's not like super invested in the genre. I was like, what do you think the best metalcore record of all time is? And she was like, it's got to be Sempiternal, right? I was like, that just validated everything that I was feeling. Like, it's reached a whole nother level of success for the band. It's like bands are still trying to replicate that sound to this day. And this is the one that Bad Omens got such flack for, because the self-titled is very inspired by Sempiternal. Like,
okay, but like inspired by, like, how much flack do they get? Because like you can be inspired by, and every pop punk band is inspired by Blink 182. It doesn't mean that they're Blink 182.
No, for sure. I remember the discourse on Reddit of it being like, oh, so this is Sempiternal Light, and like Noah being compared to Ollie, like, oh, he's just trying to be Ollie. They're just trying to do Sempiternal 2.0, which is why I think they moved away from this record so much, because they wanted to distance themselves from those kind of comparisons, even though it makes sense you would want to try to replicate this kind of sound because it's iconic.
Also, I think that was just like a wrong place, wrong time for Bad Omens. I don't think that I don't think they sounded that much like Sempiternal or Bring Me the Horizon at the time.
It's obviously that synth heavy metalcore. Like, there's a lot of bands doing it. I don't know why they got so much comparison, but
like it could have been any of them. Right? It could have been anybody making a record at the same time as Bad Omens. Bad Omens just happened to put out the one that was probably more the spotlight, and they're the ones that got the hate. They were the lightning rod, if you will, you know,
for sure,
and probably not very fairly got a lot of flack for that. But
agreed.
Good to know. Yeah, you educated me on that one. My number 2 is a different Bring Me album. You feel free to roast me.
It's not.
Oh, no. What are you going to put right now? It's not. That's the Spirit, is it? Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Cut it.
It is. I actually had it at number 4. And then as we were literally in the middle of the episode, I went to go and like on my list, copy and paste. And I moved Sempiternal down, and that's the Spirit up. Cause I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to lean into it. And just because like That's the Spirit is easier to listen to, just like because it's a little bit catchier and it's a little bit softer. And I'm just, you know, like for whatever, I throw it on, I listen to it in the background while I'm driving, and it's just, you know, it's easier to listen to. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to put this up. I'm going to fully lean into it.
That is so funny, because
roast me. I don't care.
That's the Spirit is where I fell off on Bring Me the Horizon.
That's funny.
Me too. It's my least favorite Bring Me record easily.
Really?
Except for Throne. I think Throne is like one of their favorite songs. I love when they close with it, but the rest of the record just doesn't hit for me.
It's good for me. Like, I don't know, like if I'm in like
a new, they went the radio rock.
Yeah. But like, that's kind of why it's easier to listen to. It is that like, it's the radio album. And so when I'm like, I don't know what to listen to. Let's listen to Bring Me. And it's something that's, you know, I put on that album because I'm like, oh, it's not too heavy, but it's not too light either. And I can just kind of put it on and like cruise control and just not think. It's the reality TV version of Bring Me albums.
I was ready to forgive you, and then I just realized you put it above Sempiternal.
Yeah, honestly. I probably fucked up in that little thing there, because I said I literally had Sempiternal at number 2, and that's the Spirit at number 4. And then I switched them in the middle of recording. I'm like, should I do that? And I was like debating. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever.
We found our social clip. Roast Matt about his dumbass opinion.
I told you I'm fully leaning into the fact that this is going to be subjective, and take every pick that I make with a grain of salt.
So, TJ, you were hoping also that the other one was going to be There Is a Hell, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
I put like number 1 and like 1A and 1B were Sempiternal, and There Is a Hell. I have the same kind of attraction to, or like affinity for There's a Hell as I have for Bad Omen's first record, where like they've really distanced themselves from that record too. So like, I don't know, their disdain for that record kind of like tarnished my feeling towards it, where like now I prefer Sempiternal over it. But objectively, I really love There's a Hell and the sound they had on it. They just never play it live because for whatever reason. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why they have so many good songs on that record, man.
I know, it's phenomenal.
I don't know. I'm picky with my heavy music. Okay. I like heavy music, but I'm picky with it. And yeah, and so that's my reasoning behind it. I'm like
Very
the picky
interesting.
eater version of metal fans.
Did you want me to do my number 2 before you guys do your number 1s?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go for it.
absolutely.
Okay. Okay, so my number 2 is completely biased. It's really an unhealthy obsession I have with this band. It is the Silver Scream by Ice Nine Kills.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with A Day to Remember because you were texting me like, does A Day to Remember count as metalcore? And we had that conversation before recording this. And so
No,
I was really waiting for an A Day to Remember album.
I left off A Day to Remember because Dakota and I were talking about this beforehand. Like, they don't have a pop punk album. They don't have a metalcore album. They have like a pop punk album with a metalcore song, or like, you know, they have good songs in different genres, but I wouldn't put the album in that genre. So I left A Day to Remember off. But the Silver Scream, I just love Ice Nine Kills, and they're one of those bands where you love them or you hate them. You either think like the horror references are really witty. Like, I find it super impressive that they can convey the story from a movie in song format and make it super engaging. Other people think it's super tacky, which is like, it's fair. You're on one spectrum or the other. But my Venn diagram of like loving horror movies and loving metalcore music, I'm perfectly in the middle of this Venn diagram. So they've been my number 1 artist for the last 3 years. I don't know.
And
Had to put them on here.
I love what they're doing. I think their music is good. I love horror movies too. So I think what they're doing with that is really cool. I'm not on the corny side of things with that.
Okay.
I love that they're making like cool, meaningful concept albums. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, pretty much.
so I think what they're doing is really cool. And I think they've done really well for themselves, especially like recently touring with Metallica.
They toured Metallica and
huge,
insane.
huge,
yeah.
dude. So good for them. It's just something that I never got into that lane. Yeah.
That's very fair. Before we get into our number 1s, did you guys have any honorable mentions you wanted to say, or Matt, you wanted to say something else?
No, I was wondering what Dakota had as number 1. I just wanted to get to the point. I'm dying to know what his number 1 is.
Okay. So my number 1, and I can't believe nobody has brought them up yet, because I think they might be, maybe besides Bring Me the Horizon, the best metalcore band of the 2010s. Disgusting by Beartooth.
Okay. Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I should have had it on my list. I know it was easily on my short list. I added it right away.
yeah.
My thing with
that's how I felt about it. That was like, like one of those bands I was like, okay, Bring Me the Horizon and Beartooth are going to be the top bands. Like, no questions asked. And I was like Disgusting is like the first full length thing that they put out, and it was exactly that.
Yep.
It was fucking disgusting.
It really
probably should have that on our list.
It's so aggressive. It's so like a lot of what you guys were saying with your other albums. There's a lot of feeling behind what he was doing. He had to get a lot off of his chest, like his battles with sobriety and, you know, whatever else went on in his life. And you could just feel all that in everything that they were doing. And it was so good.
Yep.
And I can listen to that record front to back any day, anytime. Number 1 for me.
My thing with this record is I have a problem on my favorite metalcore songs of all time, but I was really just singles with this record, like the lines, Beaten in Lips, Body Bag, In Between, and then I Have a Problem. But after I Have a Problem, I really fall off on the back half, where I really had to just put like albums that this is like albums across 10 years. It has to be like a 10 out of 10 for me. And for me, this is like 8 out of 10 just because I like kind of fall off towards the back half. But it is still a great record.
Yeah.
Are you ready to cap off the worst list so far in top 8 history?
100%. What the hell do you have at number 1? You probably got, I don't know, Carly Rae Jepsen or something.
Yes. Yes. I love Carly Rae. I have Pop Culture by Knock Loose.
Okay.
No,
it's a hardcore record. You can't put it on there.
I actually did put A Different Shade of Blue because I knew that TJ was going to put it on his list, because we've had this conversation where he was like, I classify Knock Loose in this album and their newer stuff as metalcore. And I'm like, fuck it. If he's fucking putting Knock Loose on his list, I'm putting it on mine. And Knock Loose is a top band for me. So I'm like, if he's gonna put it on his list, I'm putting it on mine. And Knock Loose is the band that I listen to the most, and I fucking Knock Loose is like a top 5 of all time band for me. So I'm like, yeah, I know he's putting it on his list, so I'm just gonna cap it off with the most subjective list ever and put
Dakota is stunned.
Knock Loose in there. I found the loophole. I'm a loophole guy.
I'm upset because I didn't know about the Knox Loose thing that y'all had going. Because if I had known about the thing, I would have put Knock Loose on my list too.
Yeah, fair. Probably should have brought that up beforehand. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
can we actually? I actually wrote Pop Culture on my list, but like that's too much of a hardcore record. That was a joke for me to bring up to you guys because Pop Culture is their best work, but a different shade of blue is the closest full length album that they have to being a metalcore album. Because I honestly even like Laugh Tracks more than a different shade of blue, but Laugh Tracks is more of a hardcore record than a metal. Yeah, so sure. I can kind of see TJ's argument. So I'm like, okay, fuck it. This is what we're going with.
Okay,
dude. I think if we're doing this again in 2030 for the records that came out the past decade, this new album that's about to drop,
going
to be on the list, no problem.
1,000%. Yeah, this new album is going to be a metalcore album. It's not a hardcore album for sure,
dude.
Based off of the singles.
Yeah. I sat my grandparents down and made them listen to what the hell was that singles called? I'm blanking on the name of it.
Blinding Faith. Don't reach.
Yeah, Blinding Faith. I sat my grandparents down and I did a reaction video and made them watch the music video for Blinding Faith. Oh, amazing. Man, that was so good.
Bend the knee, child of God.
Yeah, so good.
So good.
So
all right,
actually,
now
I had a question though.
Yes,
of course.
Before we surpass the Bring Me the Horizon stuff, I had a question about the Bring Me the Horizon stuff. Like, I feel like everybody is a certain generation of Bring Me the Horizon, right? So are you guys like Sempiternal generation Bring Me the Horizon or like
Suicide Season?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Suicide Season for me too.
Same. I'm Suicide Season generation Bring Me the Horizon. I know like a lot of the people that I encounter are Sempiternal generation Bring Me the Horizon. But
do you want to take a break and come up with our list?
Yeah, we'll take a little break. We'll come up with our combined list and we will be right back.
We are back, and you'll never believe it. They actually let me put Knock Loose Pop Culture at number 1. Let's
get out of
go.
Here, bud. Take That's the Spirit and run. Get
number
out of here.
2, That's the Spirit. Number 3, they put Bad Omen self-titled, and then at number 4 they put Sempiternal.
Whoa,
crazy.
Giving away
actually, the whole list is just Matt's list. That's
we acknowledge that he was actually the superior authority when it comes to metalcore here. So
yeah,
he knows more than us.
I'm definitely not just here to look pretty.
All right. Well, we did come up with a final list. So counting that down from 8 to 1, in number 8, we had the Silver Scream, which was one of my personal favorites. Say what you want about Ice Nine Kills. I don't care. They make great music. That's it. Anybody else want to talk about Ice Nine Kills whatsoever?
I hate horror movies.
Hey.
I love horror movies, so
yeah.
The spookier the better.
Yeah, same. Me too. At number 7 was one of Dakota's picks, Dead Throne by The Devil Wears Prada. I do wish that I like this record so much more, but I appreciate how heavy it is, and Prada definitely deserves to be on this list.
Yeah, I'm happy with this one because I genuinely do like Devil Wears Prada, and they're one of those like first early metalcore bands that I found early on throughout the 2000s. So to have one of their records on this list, 1,000% we got to have it there.
It just makes sense for who they are in the scene and how influential they've been to metalcore. I think so.
Yeah, honorable mention to the Zombie EP as well.
Oh, so good.
At number 6, we have Dear Youth by The Ghost Inside, another deserving pick for sure.
Yep. Very much something that a lot of people like very emotionally attached to because they released this, they were touring with it, and they got into that big bus accident. So people held on to this very close to their heart for a long time. So
couldn't agree more. At number 5, we put Creatures, the debut album from Motionless in White, which is just a banger from start to finish.
Yeah. I think a lot of people like really forget how heavy
Yeah.
they used to be.
Like their
You know, they
roots
got
in like the Scranton metalcore scene, they just like, I don't know, they knew what they were doing.
right. When you look at that band, you don't think, hey, these guys are from Scranton.
I know,
You
right?
know?
It's the Office intro, and then it jumps right into Creatures.
I love it. That's how they should intro their next record.
Yeah, right.
If they reboot The Office, they need to put Motionless in White as the new theme song.
Yeah,
100%.
awesome.
I also feel like it's crazy where they came from, given the active rock style that they have now, like songs like Masterpiece and Another Life. Like they still get heavy. You know, Slaughterhouse is still one of my favorite heavy Motionless in White songs of all time. But to go back to Creatures, how like, I don't know, raw and aggressive it is, it's just like you kind of forget. So definitely deserves to be here. At
What's
number
next?
4, we put the MD Affliction, Let the Ocean Take Me, which was a pick for Matt and myself.
Yeah, I had that one at number 3. So sitting at number 4, this looks exactly like my list. I don't know what you guys are talking about. I think we legit just took my list and just ripped it off note for note, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
what it was.
We'll give you that credit. Our number 3 is Disgusting by Beartooth, which was Dakota's number 1.
Yeah,
Rightfully so. I think we probably should have put that on our list.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I love the record front to back. I think it's very emotionally fueled. I think it's very well written. And Caleb Shomo is just one of my favorite dudes in the scene. He is always doing something cool.
Yeah.
He puts on a great live show. So.
It's also so impressive to know that he like recorded every single thing that you hear on the record, and then he was just like touring with the band. Like I know that they're like full-time members now, but before it was like just him doing everything, which I think is super impressive.
Right. He's such a good musician. And like it just like makes me wonder where the hell I have gone anywhere with my life, knowing that he was headlining Warped Tour at 16 years old with Attack, right?
Yep.
And like I think he's like a year or two younger than me.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and he has obviously gone through so many musical accolades since then. And to know he's like, around the same age as me, man.
Like, what the hell am I doing with my life, man? Jesus.
Exactly. Exactly. It's crazy.
Yeah. At number 2, Say What You Want About Knock Loose, A Different Shade of Blue is a metalcore infused album. It deserves to be on here. We forgot to tell Dakota that, but yeah, he agreed.
Yeah.
He agreed with us, and I think this is mostly all TJ's doing. And because I know TJ and we've had this conversation off camera so many times, I knew that he was going to put it here. So I was like, well, and I guess we probably should have told you Knock Loose counts as metalcore for this one particular album in our minds.
If I knew Knocked Loose was on the table, Knocked Loose would have been on my list for sure.
That's why they're on the combined list.
Yeah.
And our number 1 is, of course, arguably one of the most influential Bring Me the Horizon records of all time. That's the Spirit. It's Sempiternal. It's a banger from start to finish. Like the opening 7 tracks in a row just hit nonstop. Can You Feel My Heart and the Snakes Start to Sing, which is low key one of my favorite songs like of all time. And then it's just like, it's awesome from there too. Like Hospital for Souls is also just like a super cathartic song for Ollie. And I don't know, it's really personal and it's engaging and it's just a great record.
The only reason that this record made my list so high was because of the meme. So I don't.
All right, so it's just a meme list. That's fine.
Yeah. Bring Me the Horizon is that TikTok band, right?
Yeah. And the turtle sandbox, Sandpit Turtle, right?
Yeah.
They've got I think 2 memes. There's Sandpit Turtle and then the I Can't Make It on My Own one with at the end of the year, the wrap up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's that one. Yeah.
Well, that is our top 8 metalcore albums of the 2010s. Did you agree with our list? Did you hate our list? I bet we've left some records off. What else did you have on your list?
I also want to know in the comments what you think about Dakota's impression of me, because this is my first time ever interacting with him. Like he's gonna be like, people in the comments to be like, yeah, Dakota definitely thinks Matt's an idiot. Matt knows nothing about heavy music. And you'd be half correct.
My impression is that you are definitely Canadian.
Sorry, can't help it.
Sorry about.
I don't
sorry
really hear
about
it,
that.
but I'm from here, so.
I'm sorry about my loose lip, man.
Well, Dakota, thank you so much for joining us, man. Is there anything that you maybe wanted to shout out and or promote while we have you here?
Oh man. Well, first off, thank you for having me. I had a blast.
course.
I would love to do this again with you guys sometime. If we
Please.
talk about another list of albums, that'd be great.
We're doing hardcore albums next.
Hardcore albums next. I am so down. If
Knock
anybody
loose.
wants to follow me, right. If anybody wants to follow me and see my nonsense, I am Trashmouth on Instagram and just Trashmouth on TikTok for however long the US still has it.
Yeah, for real.
And then, yeah, just keep listening to heavy music, and we'll see you on the next one.
Words of wisdom. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for listening. If you're on YouTube, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It really helps us out. If you're listening on Spotify, please also leave a 5 stars because that helps too. And yeah, I think it's important and you should do it.
We'll talk again next week, and hopefully we'll be back with Dakota soon.